morning, everyone. I am Rashad Bonner, a junior graphic design major at Texas Women's University. I would like to welcome everyone to the sit-down interview with Texas Women's Visual Arts faculty and staff. During the interview, we'll introduce the artist, discuss the work featured in the Lingua Franca exhibition, and ask a few questions about the different artists and their work. First, introductions. If you don't mind, please introduce yourself with a brief description of your art style or preferred medium. So I guess, Alex, would you like to go first?
Yeah, my artwork has a lot to do with anthropological theories and conceptual ideas. And I really like to work with all materials. I don't have a specific favorite. If I can get my hands on it, I like to play with it.
Nice.
Hi, so my name is Christine Adame, and I am an intermediate artist. Uh, I want to say my art right now is focused on heritage, and that means that it ends up being really intermediate. My favorite medium is the one I don't know too much about yet, but I tend to layer old and the new on top of each other.
My name is Blake Weld. I'm the technical director and gallery manager at Texas Women's University for the Visual Arts Division. My medium of choice, I use found objects to make kinetic sculptures. So I'm very much interested in taking things in domestic life and activating them in some sort of haphazard kind of occurrence.
So we can jump right into the questions. So the first question is, what was a challenge you overcame or advice someone gave you that changed you as an artist?
To not give up with those failures are truly just points of happy accidents in a sense. You just keep going with it. Don't let the thing that doesn't look the way you want it to stop you. Just make it the way you want it. Like keep working with it to get it to the way you want it to look like, or the way you want it to look like. It has been some of the best advice I've ever had is to just don't stop. Just keep going. Don't let the emotions inside keep you from seeing your potential.
I'll go next. In 2017, I had a retinal detachment in one of my eyes. And so that meant that I had to go under surgery actually a couple times because it happened a couple times. I have since healed up from that surgery. My eye is actually pretty good. Like I have like 80% of my vision in that eye. But at the time, as a visual artist, it was very difficult. So my depth perception isn't great. So sometimes like very precise like sculptural work will be difficult. But I think what helped me is not only like my support system, like my friends who I know in the university community and the arts community and my family who helped me heal, but also uh, like knowing these histories of artists who have kind of changed after going through similar things. So like Nancy Sparrow is an example where she was a printmaker that moved to collage, and then we were talking about Monet, I believe, who like gradually lost his eyesight. So that really helped to overcome that challenge.
I am curious as to how did that injury affect your actual work? Did it, I guess, halt your work in some way, or did you just grow and evolve with that injury?
So it meant that I didn't do neon work anymore, just because it was more difficult to achieve that. Uh, and I think I think it didn't really affect like the content of my work per se, but it just like kind of affected like what media I work with.
Gotcha. Uh, I love that because it ties with Alex saying that, not give up, just continue to go on. So I think that's amazing. Okay, so same question to Blake. What was a challenge you overcame or advice someone gave you that changed you as an artist?
I think the advice that I got that changed me as an artist, or maybe I don't know if it like changed me as an artist, but like as a student, as somebody who wanted to become an artist, this was always mentioned a lot to me, and it was to seek out your peers and outside feedback, even if that person may or may not be thinking about the same thing that you're thinking about, even though that is obviously helpful to be on the same page. But just taking advantage of being a student and receiving feedback from all sorts of people. I think what's beautiful about feedback is you don't have to take it. You can just let it live and walk away and go somewhere else. But at least having an open ear and reaching out to people to get advice, especially as a student who's trying to kind of develop a body of work or develop a style, I think it's really beneficial.
So next question, and this is open-ended to anyone, and if anybody wants to chime in, or if someone mentions something that like speaks to your heart, just go ahead and chime in. So what are your hopes for the future in education?
I hope to see it be more accessible. I know we have the internet, but that's also a place of misinformation as well. I would like to see there to be more understanding that there are facts that are not facts because someone said they're facts, but that understanding of the process to get to one point to another in education, but that being more accessible to a mass audience.
Okay, so I have a controversial question to that.
Yes.
Is okay, so do you feel as if that in order to get a good education, you have to go to college, especially with a art education?
That is a good question. So my parents told me you don't need to go to art school to do art, and I got my BA in anthropology, and I said no, I still want to do art, and getting a degree was the step for me. I don't think that it's necessary, but it did help me. I mean, you have in one place a concentrated amount of, like Blake said, feedback, teachers, all sorts of information that you can get in a shortened time. Even though school seems like it takes forever, it is a shortened amount of time that you get a concentrated amount of information. So it is helpful for sure. But I don't think it's necessarily necessary, but reaching out to those who do have an education in college, I don't think it's a bad idea to reach out and go, what are your thoughts? If that makes sense.
I have a follow-up to that too, but I'm moving on.
I have a follow-up too.
Go ahead.
I wish that, like, to build on what you were talking about, Alex, like, I wish that students were exposed to other disciplines as like a focus in addition to art, because I think like cross-disciplinary interests and research has so much to feed into the actual art practice. So like I actually got my undergrad in architecture, and that still like maintains with me to this day. And I also have like a minor in, well, kind of equivalent of a minor in women's and gender studies. And so those things I still carry with me in my art practice. And so I think like sometimes we can get so art focused that it just doesn't like look outward enough into what's going on in the world. So I love what you shared, Alex.
Right.
And I second that for sure. Of like, and I think we forget that when we talk about interdisciplinary, that we're not just talking about inside the art world. We're talking about anthropology. We're talking about architecture. We're talking about social studies, health science, nursing. There's so many like pollinations, crossovers from art and science that it's ridiculous. One of my mentors crossed that constantly. Their research was very much science focused. They needed science. They needed scientists to do their research. So I think that's a very crucial part.
So Christine brought up other disciplines. So do you feel as if art gets restricted or confined when you're like looking at degree plans and looking at like the structured way of going through education when it pertains to art?
Oh yeah, I mean, I even experienced it within my degree. So architecture is a professional degree of 5 years, and I got 2.5 years in, and I was like, I actually don't think I want to talk about windows and doors like the rest of my life and kind of like have this professional job. So I kind of switched and created my own degree. It was like architectural studies, and then I took some classes in the humanities. And so I had to like kind of make that intentional decision, and I had these really enriching experiences by taking like classes in the liberal arts school. Um, so yeah, I think that the degree plan kind of like schedules you out such that you don't have time to like focus on really anything else. You're kind of funneled into maybe this profession, and you're still at a point where maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do, right? I mean, we're really lucky, like you're lucky if you're like at 17, 18 and you kind of have an idea, but a lot of us, like, that's not the case.
Would anybody else like to add one or two things to that, or are we good to move on?
I,
I just agree. It can be really constraining when you first look at it, but it's great to be able to go outside your comfort zone.
to really give a simplified, potentially political answer to your what are your hopes for the future of education, uh, I hope that it's free.
Yes.
It's free.
Who's gonna say no to that? Okay. All right. So
A little oversimplified, I know, but
Yeah.
no one's gonna disagree. There's one individual question, and then hopefully we'll have time to answer a couple more questions and dig deeper. But the next question is to Blake. What made you use the dryers over other materials and dryers on the fritz?
so the reasoning for the objects that I use stems from my childhood. My father owned his own construction company, and he was also a handyman, Mr. Fix It. He would go out and fix all sorts of things. And I, as a child, even as an infant, was brought along to these kind of repairs and building homes. So I got to see a lot of and be part of this creation of what goes into a house. And just throughout my life, getting older and older, I was always tinkering around with different things, making things out of foreign objects, well, construction materials, domestic materials. So I've always had a interest in things found in a home, things that I have a childhood connection with. Um, I mean, you could say the same thing about my universal smoke break. It's one of those children's cigarettes. I attempted to be dangerous in my humble childhood ways and had those little fake cigarettes that I would think I was cool with.
Right.
And so, yeah, just kind of utilizing my history, my past, and then what I know best. And that's kind of building materials and repairs. And so forth. So that's what brings me to those dryers and using domestic kind of materials.
Last and final question is uh, what is art to you, and how has it grown since your education to now?
I grew up hating art, but being dragged around to all the museums. I know, right? I
Really?
like the look on your face. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was like crying, please don't make me go. Please don't make me go. Then I'd get there, enjoy it. And then by the time I was 14, I was like, I saw an Andy Warhol piece. And I was like, all right, you've done it. I now like this stuff. Finding out about Andy Warhol, he isn't maybe the greatest person, but his idea of creating that artwork can be anything has really been big in my life, in that it has kept my eyes open to not just getting stuck, which is very similar to my artwork, stuck in a box in regards to art only looks one way, when I know very well art looks like all sorts of different things.
Mhm.
Art to me now is an expression of the human condition. And when I was young, like, you know, you cycle through different like professions that you want, and artists always kept coming back. And I think it was just the freedom, the creative like agency to just like create anything, but also just like I don't know, just be free to wander creatively. Uh, yeah, so that's why I kind of eventually came back around.
I think Alex and Christine kind of nailed it on the head. Uh, it's a expression. It's anything. It's everywhere. I would add. Um, I would even dare to say everyone is an artist to a certain degree, which can be controversial. But growing up with a construction background and like being a builder, I make that connection personally. So yeah, art is everywhere and can be made out of anything.
Follow back with Alex. What was it in your earlier stages that just, I don't know, where you just didn't like art? Was it?
I think it was kind of just growing up inside in Texas, it being hot. And this time you went and did stuff
Yeah.
with your parents was summertime, and was really into TV, even though little did I know everything, as Blake said, was art on TV. And it was just, why are you making me look at this? Why are you making me do this? And then my dad actually took the time to explain quite a few things to me. And I slowly guess I just started building that art brain in a sense, um, and started looking at things with a new lens. And I will say that the Andy Warhol piece I saw reminded me of images on a TV. And I guess it was like, all right, I can see it now. It doesn't have to be moving to be extremely interesting. Um, but yeah, I have vivid memories of just dreading it and then getting there and, oh, this isn't that bad. And every time, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, this is
Right.
absolutely amazing. And now it's my whole life. And so, um, the art being accessible, I wish everyone had the ability to go and see that, whatever background or whoever their parents were, so that maybe they could go on their own pathway to figure out, maybe it's not art, but I need to have it in my life.
This is a question for everyone, and I want everyone to give as much information as possible. But uh, if you could give one or two solid pieces of advice to any incoming artists at Texas Women's, or even just new artists in general, what would you tell them? Like, if you could give them advice to hold on to for all of their career, so what would you tell them?
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I actually
Ooh,
got that in anthropology. That
yeah,
was advice for anthropologists, and it's still real solid for an artist. I really hated being uncomfortable. The more I got used to it, the more my art grew, and the more I grew. And I really think if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, you will be more successful in just that. You're gonna step outside your comfort zone.
I would say to follow your curiosity with persistence. So follow it, but also delve deep into it.
I
mm,
would say embrace boredom.
Right. Mm-hmm.
mm, please explain. Please explain.
Uh, so first off, I think being an artist, there's a lot of times. Try not to be controversial. Creativity doesn't always happen. It takes a lot of work. It's an exercise. You have to literally like exercise creativity. Um, but there's times where you don't want to be creative, where you just can't make work, and you just need to not be in your studio or be in that mindset and not do anything. Like just stop as much as you physically and mentally can, and like zone out, and transcend. Not to get too like spiritual, but like transcend yourself into a different space. And that can be translated into all sorts of different things. It could be spending a day just like watching Netflix and having Netflix tell you, are you still watching Netflix? Or playing video games. But finding ways to get yourself away from art and creativity is just as important as being creative. And I think those moments of being, doing something different or being bored with what you're kind of currently doing is just as important as anything else. So yeah, I think that's my justification. I don't know how well I did on that, but
No, you
No,
did
I
really
think that's
well because
great.
it's like I think it's great. But my follow-up is can you lean into that too much?
oh, of course, yeah,
Mhm.
oh yeah. But that's where being an artist, you are running your own business. Yes, you have freedoms beyond most professionals, but as long as you remember that there's a business aspect to being an artist, uh, and you have time management, and you have to exercise your art, you kind of have to get back to it, and you have to, and it's not easy, and it may be slow for some people. Um, and like just to give some personal examples, um, to me, being successful in the studio, I have spent 2 minutes in my studio and done maybe even like reorganized files. That to me is a good day in the studio and success. And then I've had times where it's like 12-hour day in the studio and I'm cranking things out and troubleshooting and fixing things. Um, and I consider that success, right? Um, so I think with our freedoms as an artist, we have that ability to just spend 2 minutes, maybe an hour a week to make art, to 60, 100 hours a week to make art. Uh, the individual artist needs to define their business strategies, their goals, their intent, and stick with those as much as possible. So yeah.
I love that because you kind of like every artist like has their own kind of process, and sometimes like if you're in your studio too long, you're just kind of spinning your wheels, and but like okay, this is gonna help create the space for me to be creative, but also like you want to make plans or like try to get outside of what you're used to, like kind of break it up and make that space for inspiration or curiosity.
So we are coming to the end, and first off, I would just really, really like to thank you all for joining us today and speaking with us and answering our questions. If you don't mind plugging your Instagrams, where we can find you, look at your work, and all that good stuff if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, my name's Alex Epps. I have alexeppsart.com and my Instagram is alex_Epps.
My like website is christineadame.com, all lowercase. Well, that doesn't really matter, but and then Instagram is at cnadame.
My website's blaketweld.com, and then you can find me on the interweb as Blake T. Weld, and you'll find me.
All right. So hopefully I get to see you guys on campus soon. Maybe even take a couple of your classes. So anyway, signing out. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.